Motivation in Motion. Own your moment and get better today. So let's get started.
Okay.
Tell us who you are.
Well, I'm Steve Dunlap.
Okay.
Growing up, my mom was an elementary teacher. My dad was a high school teacher, coach, and eventually became an administrator. So I grew up around elementary, junior high, high school sports. So that's all I ever wanted to do. And so in high school, I played football and I wrestled. Actually, probably liked football a little better, but I was just better at wrestling. And not that I was great at wrestling, but I was better at wrestling, misplacing at state by a couple of points each year. And so I walked on at University of Central Oklahoma.
Okay.
And my main deal is there, I knew I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to learn more and make contacts, meet people. And,
Who was the coach at UCO then?
Well, Jim Rogers was the head coach there for 2 years, and then Eddie Griffin the next 2 years.
Okay, I know Eddie. Yeah, so that's great. I was
Don Burton, junior high, Bobby Stites in high school, and then Jim Rogers and Eddie Griffin in college, and they were all great coaches.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate there, and then I had fantastic teammates at UCO.
Okay.
I mean, they treated me like I was on the team, and had a chance maybe to start one year, and a guy from OSU transferred down and kind of took care of that.
Okay.
But anyway, that way I didn't have to pull a bunch of weight all year. But anyway, built great friendships that have lasted today, and then got into coaching and started at Edmond as 8th grade assistant football coach and junior high wrestling coach, and kept being the junior high wrestling coach.
Now, which campus were you on in Edmond?
Well, when I first started was the old high school there
on Central
by
on
the
9th.
post office.
Okay.
Right there.
Oh,
My first
absolutely.
two
Okay,
years, it was called the 8th grade center.
Right.
And then after that, I went to Cimarron for a couple of years, and then to the mid-high.
Okay.
So anyway, coached assistant 8th grade football, junior high wrestling, then went on to be the head 8th grade coach.
Okay.
And football, and kept doing the junior high wrestling, then became 9th grade. Coached 9th grade there for 5 or 6 years, and then kept being the junior high wrestling coach.
Now, I have to pause you on the 9th grade football, because Toby Doherty made us carry these poles that were like laying out in the field, and he said this was a carrying on your legacy. There was like 4 of us. Is this true story? Like, these things were like old cut telephone poles, and I remember it would take about 4 or 5 of us to grab these things. And during camp, we would carry these things hundreds of yards. Was this
that was actually his deal?
Okay.
I didn't have the poles.
Okay.
We had enough stuff for sure. Right?
I figured so. I just wanted to clear the air before I was having flashbacks.
I need to clear
and blame.
that with
I need to blame you for that.
Right.
But okay, I'll let you off the hook.
I could be blamed for a lot of things. I always tell those guys I probably owe them an apology for some of the
I figured that was
stuff
something
I
a
put
wrestling coach would make us do.
Right.
You know. So anyway.
And so just loved it there. Got to coach so many great young men, and they were such hard workers, and had some really good teams. I mean, when you've got good assistant coaches like Toby Doherty and Mike Monroe and people like that, you've got all these great players. They'll make a coach look good.
Okay.
And then in wrestling, got to coach some great wrestlers. T.J. Jaworski, who 4-time state champion, 3-time NCAA champion, even won the first Hodge Award, which is the Heisman Trophy of wrestling. So, you get to coach guys like that. God blesses you to get to coach guys like that. They'll make a coach look
I see you
good.
light up. That's
right.
awesome.
And so then after Edmond, I went to Broken Arrow for 11 years as the head wrestling coach, and then hooked up with Coach Blankenship at Union in the athletic department at Union. While he was still coaching, I was his assistant AD.
Okay. And then you were there for
21 years.
Wow.
So 10 at Edmond, actually 12 at Broken Arrow,
Okay.
and then 21 at Union. So got to coach it and teach and work at great schools.
Now, obviously your family, right? So you grew up with this coach's life, right? And seeing just kind of education at its finest. But, tell me about I know that you talk about the stops. Tell me about some of the kids.
Oh, some of the kids, just talk about Brett Adams in football, Scott Evans in football. I mean, Jeff Wrestler.
Wow.
Jeremy Stout.
I haven't heard Jeff Wrestler's name in a long time.
Trevor and Tyler Williams.
I grew up across the street from them.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Gino Pierce.
Oh, wow.
Shea Foster. Paul Miller. Paul Miller was just the strongest kid I think I ever coached. He was just a beast out there. That is a great kid to coach. And Jason Allen, quarterback. Kevin Dudsey, quarterback. I almost hate saying names because I had so many.
I know.
I had so many I was that I was just so fortunate to get to coach.
Now, why the transition from coaching to AD? What made you want to make that at that point in
my
your life?
dad had coached. He coached 21 years, and I remember when he quit, I asked him why, and he said, you'll just know. And I'd been involved 21 years at that time, and I don't know if I just had that in my head, but I just felt like it was a time, and I had watched other coaches continue to coach, and eventually something bad happens. And they'd have a bad experience there, and the school would like to go a different direction, and they would be bitter. So I wanted to have a better ending, and luckily there we had just won the state championship at Broken Arrow, and we were going to return more points than we'd ever returned since I had been there. So I thought it was a good time. Turned it over to a good friend of mine that won state the next year.
That's fantastic.
But anyway, it was just a lot of fun times for me.
I've always thought that was interesting, even in my coaching career, is when you got to leave a program and you knew it was going to be okay. I mean, you feel so committed to those kids, but when you can see the future just a little bit, you're like, they don't need me.
Right.
They got great men, and those kids are talented. They're going to be fine. I'm going to go over here where I'm needed. So I love that attitude. Right. Administration. So you guys, obviously at Union, you guys had a tremendous amount of success. So
it was a great time to be there.
So what's the secret? What's the secret to everybody else in the state of Oklahoma?
I always say having great players helps a lot. But Coach Blankenship did a great job there at Union, building that program onto a different level. I think their upper administration, Dr. Kathy Burden was the superintendent, and then Dr. Kirk Hartzler after that. And then we had Dave Stauffer and Denise Vignatas that were high school principals that just did a fantastic job, built a great culture there. We had big linemen, fast running backs, and it was just a fantastic time to be there.
They were great in every sport.
Right.
I mean, Union, or just the east side of this, state, everybody wants to talk football and wrestling, baseball, basketball, but it's like they're winning in everything.
Right.
I mean,
well, and really about the time you were going through high school, the west side was dominating everything.
Correct.
And luckily for me, about the time I went over to the east side, it kind of flipped back.
So we can blame you. All of us on the west side are blaming you. Okay.
Well,
we're not editing that out, Wes. Not.
But I was just fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. That's a better way to put that.
Now, so much of I've heard stories from the men that you've coached, and the way they come back and the way they talk about you. So this is like family, right?
Absolutely.
The way they talk about you is just like family. So how did that come to be? How did that happen?
I think a little bit it was. I've been single all my life. Was not my plan. So the teams I coached were like my family. I think that helped build that culture, and they were just great kids. And I followed like Dan Gable, outstanding gold medal winner in wrestling, outstanding college wrestling coach, Vince Lombardi, with the Green Bay Packers and stuff, and read their books and everything about them and how they just thrived on mental toughness. So I always wanted kids to think, hey, they could go this hard, but they could go a little bit harder. They can always go hard. We can always go harder than we think.
100%.
And I know they didn't like it at the time, but I think it's something that either it was just a badge of getting through there, or it's helped them later on just not to quit.
Yeah, the one word that we knew so many of those names that you mentioned, and I got the honor of watching all those guys grow up, right? And so they were like superheroes to me. But they talk about you like family, so I appreciate you sharing that.
I love those guys and love the guys I coached, and just can't thank them enough for putting up with me most of the time.
I don't think that was it. Now, there was some good coaching in there too. Now you're in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Right, the Oklahoma chapter.
The Oklahoma chapter, right. So I mean, they don't just give those out.
No, but like I said, you get good help. Had great assistant coaches. Steve Herron there at Edmond helped me a lot. Mike Jones and Gary Dill, and they helped me a bunch there at Broken Arrow, along with Steve Allen, Link Davis, and Roger Roberts. I think I might have mentioned him. But, that all plays a big part in it, having great help and great kids, and kids that are willing to work hard. And that's something you have to build on. I learned what I call the mental toughness drill, actually from Coach Nelson, that was the Midwest City Wrestling coach. It's an outstanding coach. And he would get his team in a push-up position, and they would go for 14 minutes. And of course, sometimes they're dropping, but they're getting back up. But I mean, as soon as you get in that push-up position, your mind's telling you to quit. I mean, nobody wants to do that. I wouldn't want to do it. But each time you just try to go longer and longer, and you're just fighting your mind the whole time. And hopefully that way, when you get in a tough contest, you got no quit in you.
No quit. Wow. When you moved over to administration, what were some of the great victories? Was it hiring good men and women? Like, what did that feel like?
Well, it was a big surprise at first because I didn't know the players like I thought I would. I knew them, but you deal more with the coaches, teachers, and parents that way. And I just think helping young coaches get started. Our coaches, we didn't have a whole lot of parent problems there at Union because our coaches did a great job of communicating and taking care of those things and just setting up big events. I mean, the Union Jinx football game's been such a big thing for so many years, and just getting to be a part of that and all the work that it goes into making that night be a success.
Right.
And then the game would just be an incredible
Now, are they still
game.
holding that neutral site?
No, we've gone back to
home and away?
Home and away.
Okay.
At Union, a couple of years ago, we completely redid our stadium.
Okay.
Tore down the home side, rebuilt it, redid the visitor side, and so put a lot of money into it, made it a little bit bigger, so we have it there, and I'm pretty sure Jinx is going to have it back at their place this year.
How many people show up for that?
Well, I think we can squeeze in about 12,000, and they can
Okay.
probably squeeze in about 10. But when I first started, it was at TU, and it was close to 30,000.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It was the
remember
hot
some
item
of that.
then.
Right.
And I think just after years and years and years, the game didn't lose anything, but it's just not as many people were coming that weren't a part of either school.
Correct. Correct.
There for a while, people that didn't even have anything to do with the Union or Jinx would go to that game.
Would come to that game. Right. Yeah. As a high school athlete, I do think there is something special about having it on campus, though.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, there is.
Just you guys don't have tracks around your deal,
yeah.
so that well, heck, you hosted us this year at Union.
Right.
One of the things that I always thought that you did so well, and I saw you this year as a visiting coach, was the hospital. You were so kind and gracious to a visiting staff. It's amazing. Steve, I go all these different places. Right. We show up, and the class in which you treated us with, I forgot what we needed, or I think we had left a power cord for some video camera. You got people running around trying to help us. And when you go other places, I had been told a week earlier, well, that's not our problem.
Right.
I'm like, really? I mean, like, you have an entire school district here. You can't find me X.
Right.
And they're like, nope, sorry.
Well, that's one thing we took great pride in there. We wanted to always be great host, and we always wanted to win. But but we wanted to be great host and treat people like we would want to be treated and stuff. And I don't know, Coach Blankenship got me hooked up with the Visitors buses, coaching buses, and then that switched into the band buses as well. And we have a big bus loop out there, which is a great place for them to park. But to keep other people from getting in there early, I would have to get out there right after school. So I'd be out there, some of those hot games out there.
You're working till 7. Well, over here you kick off at what, 8 o'clock?
Well, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
But so be out there from then. And Emily, our athletic director, who's fantastic, Emily Barkley, she got me plenty of help out there. But boy, we'd all be out there just sweating it.
Wow.
getting the teams in, and then getting the bands in, and then the spirit groups in, and just trying to help it, make it be an easy process for them.
If you were to tell a young coach that's just getting into this right now, what would be some of the advice that you would give him that you've learned?
Well, I think
or
one of the things is usually a lot of times they're either a junior high coach or high school assistant coach. I would really work on like writing things down, keeping a book of how the coach handled this situation and this situation. Hey, it really worked great this way. This way, maybe we could have gone and done it a little bit different. Coach Blankenship said he used to keep a file on how to lose a game. And he would look through there each year, and he would remind himself. And I thought, man, I wish I would have known that when I didn't know that.
I'm copying that one.
That was a real good one. But then I would read books. They didn't have as many back then as they do now, but I try to read every book about a pro coach or a pro player or college or that, and just see what they were doing, the behind the scenes, and just constantly trying to learn. And I would also look at who's being successful. What are they doing to be successful? Because we got kids just like them. So,
you said something though earlier that I don't know if it's a generational thing or it's where society's gone from a tech standpoint. But like, I feel like young coaches don't know how to communicate, verbally to their parents. And I think that's one of the biggest thing that loses a culture or a program or that coach's opportunity is just the simple ability to communicate with the extended people that go into running a sport team.
Sure, right.
We need to go back and teach a clinic on that.
There's pluses and minuses to that. The pluses, it's so easy to communicate to your players and everybody, or an individual player, but it sometimes takes the place of that face-to-face that you need to have.
Right.
And because I think sometimes face-to-face, you're going to tell them things you don't tell them in a text. And another great thing I learned a lot from Coach Blankenship was if he was talking to a young man, maybe there were some things he was doing wrong or something, but he would tell him all the good things he had done. Then they would discuss the things he was doing wrong. Then he'd have him come back and say, now tell me what I just told you. What have I just said? And every time they would just talk about the bad stuff. He'd go, but what about all this other stuff? And he'd make them repeat all the good things. So he says, so not everything's bad. We just got to clean up a couple areas here, get that done, and we'll be on the right road.
Which is such a great education piece, because then when they go home to their parents, they just repeat the 3 bad things.
Oh, right, absolutely.
And you're like, well, you forget to tell them. Then the coach gets a phone call from the parents. You're like, well, hold on. There was a list of 10 good things. He just hung on to the 3 that I talked about that I want him to change.
And I think just even as humans, we do that.
100%.
We sit there and think, we're not even thinking about the good things they said. We're just thinking, man, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've noticed through all these interviews is almost every man or woman that I've interviewed can tell me about their losses.
Right.
But a lot of them struggle kind of remembering all the wins.
Right.
They're like, I've carried that for 38 years. I remember that play on that down.
And that did it.
Yeah, and so you're right. Yeah, there should be something that we teach there. If there was something that you would just you would want to share with all the men that you've influenced in your coaching, and even some of the coaches, men and women that you've hired, what would you want them to say about you?
Well, I'd want them to think that I was fair.
Okay.
That they didn't have to go somewhere else to work out to get better or improve. That they could do it all right there under our program.
Okay.
That we did push them to be better even than they thought they could be, that they could be the best they could be. A type of program they'd want to come back and visit. Always wanted them to know they could be a part of it. Things I'd probably do different. I probably, and I know I could have gotten the FCA more involved. I didn't do that, and I should have, because anytime I've been around the FCA people, they have been fantastic. They're always ready to help. I mean, they're always just so positive. Hey, you need anything, you let us know.
Right.
And not that we didn't have anything spiritual or anything, but I could have added a little bit more of that in there. I don't think some of them knew that side of me. And of course, I make my mistakes too. So,
we all
I'm
need
thankful
grace.
For a Savior.
Absolutely, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, share a little bit about your faith.
Well, I was very fortunate. My grandparents and my parents were great Christian people, so I grew up in a Christian home. And I remember my dad was the head football coach in Tecumseh, Oklahoma, just outside of Shawnee.
I know Tecumseh is, yeah.
And I remember one of my best friends, we're at the Baptist church, and in the Baptist church, if you're going to accept Christ, you walk down to the front and they'll ask you a few questions, and then you get baptized. Well, one of my best friends went down there. I thought, man, I don't want him going down there. I can't go down there. So I went down there, but deep down, I just went down there because he did.
Okay.
And I answered all their questions, got baptized. But a few years later, God was kind of convicting me, like, you didn't really know what you were doing. So I at a at a revival at our church, I'd make that walk again and answer the questions again, and they talk about baptism. I said, well, I've already been baptized. And they said, well, we need to talk about it, but there was just so many people, they never really got back with me. And deep down, I knew I needed to do it again.
Okay.
But I waited till I was 43 years old to do that, from like 12, 13 to 43.
Wow.
And finally, I don't know if I just fought it or what, but that was a big moment for me. It was just like, whew, I've been needing to do this for years. For me,
right?
I needed to do that.
Understand.
And so, and then, a lot of the kids I coached, a lot of the coaches I coached with were great Christian men too. So I was very fortunate in that area too.
Yeah, when you coach this long, is there a story of faith that you saw in one of the men or women that you were around that you would want to share? I don't want to single anyone out.
There was one young man that had won a couple of state championships for me, and there was a couple of times I might mention something to him about, I'd ask him what church they go to or something. He just said, Coach, I don't do that. I'm not interested in that. And so I didn't bug him about it, but it was probably about 5 years ago, he and his whole family got baptized at a Life Church.
Wow.
And so excited for him. And I told him I was sorry for the times I was probably a bad example for him, because there's times I could have used better words or done things better myself, been a better Christian example for him as well. But that was sure an exciting moment,
to see a whole
exciting
family
time.
come forward.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. Sometimes we plant those seeds, but they have to happen on their own time, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
If there was something that I could bottle up and say, okay, I want to keep this and I want to treasure it, just about our short time, is there anything you want to share?
Oh, I just thank God. God blessed my life so much, especially as a coach and a teacher. I didn't deserve it, but he still blessed me, and I thank him all the time for that. I'm at Edmond, when Edmond's probably the largest high school in the state.
Yeah.
Great school, great community. Then I go to Broken Arrow. Well, Edmond School split up, so now Broken Arrow's the largest high school in the state. Once again, a bunch of great kids, great community people working with you. And then I spent 21 years at Union, which is the second largest high school, and a school that has a large tax base and is not afraid to spend their money on the kids. If it's good for kids, they want to do it.
100%.
And so I just always want to thank God for blessing me with that, because I think, gosh, I certainly didn't deserve it. So I sure want to thank him.
I can see it from your face. I'm trying to figure out why you retired. Just to be in charge of your own schedule, right?
Sure, right,
yeah.
right.
We're going to have to go on the record, though, that we have heard outside of this camera that you still have an office.
Right, I still have an office, and that's another blessing. I loved working with the people I worked with, and they still allow me to come up there and do a little bit of work, and I'll help put on football games and stuff like that, or little things here and there. But they also know that I'm coming and going, so it's still just so much fun. Emily Barkley, the athletic director at Union, does such a great job, and we've actually worked together 19 years.
Wow.
One year we figured it out, and we go, God, we've worked together 15 years. We couldn't believe it, because time goes so fast. When we look back, it seems like I'm just starting at Edmond. Coach Van Alstall was the 8th grade coach. We're in that old 8th grade building it's like 200 degrees in there, and we're getting the shoulder pads and the helmets out, and where they built that post office back there, that ground was like concrete. I don't know how we didn't get concussions every day or broke arms, that ground was hard. As hard as a rock.
It's crazy. I just want to thank you for taking time. I know that we have so many common stories. You were gone right before I would have had you as a 9th grade coach, but I knew of you. But it was all of my friends and those men that I knew that you had coached and the impact on it. And still today, when I mentioned to a few of them that I was going to get this opportunity, the way that they light up.
Well, good.
So,
that certainly makes me feel good, and I'm thankful for that. And I feel the same way about them. I remember. Just another quick story.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, we're at UCO playing Jinx in the state championship in football, and I turn around, and these two guys were just looking at me, kind of laughing. And it's Justin Story, and I think we had a good nickname for him. But anyway, there's a couple of guys there, and saw them, and they lit up, I lit up,
Yeah.
and we talked the rest of the game.
Wow. Well, it's always been a blessing you've hosted us and beat our brains out for years. So you always did it with a ton of class.
Well,
so
thank you very much.
appreciate it. But I hope you'll stay connected.
Sure. That's my plan.
Yeah, and I hope you get to do what you want, and hopefully you'll keep. I just think. Hopefully maybe you'll stay involved with 17 Ministries and what John's doing. I just think you have so much value that you can provide to the next set of coaches.
Well, thank you very much. It means a lot.
And
thank you.
Don't disappear, okay?
Okay, I won't.
Okay.
Hey, thank
Thanks,
you very
Coach.
much. Appreciate it.